Hello, my fellow benders and non-benders. Welcome to Uncle Iroh's Tea Shop. Today, we must ask an important question. What would have happened during the 100-Year War if Firelord Ozai had a dragon? If there's one thing I know about Avatar fans, it's that they love exploring the what-if scenarios of this franchise and its characters. This is a series that I want to start up again, as seemingly it has been absent on Avatar YouTube recently. Some of my other Avatar YouTuber friends have done these kinds of videos before, but I thought, why not bring this back with the franchise seemingly making a return with all kinds of projects coming down the line in the next several years. Today's first edition of this leaves no room for introduction, as we explore a what-if scenario that really fascinates me. It's one that, in doing some research, I did not find much of a conversation around the online spaces, where Avatar fans go to speak with one another. I do hope you all enjoy this one, so sit back, relax, have some jasmine tea as we run through this what-if style video. Like I said, I made sure to research as best as possible to see if anyone has talked about this online, or if anyone has made a video about it, and I came up short on those findings. The only thing I could find of relevance was a Reddit post from about a year ago asking the question, how powerful would Ozai be if he learned from the dragons? And so this is a great way to kick off the video by asking that very question, because it ties in with this video topic. Now, you could say that both questions have a different meaning to them, with what it is meant for him to learn from the dragons, as opposed to what it meant for him to actually have one in the first place. The question doesn't necessarily state that he would have had to have gotten a dragon, just that if he had learned from them. Although, I can imagine he probably would have taken a dragon on with him regardless, just like how Roku and Sozin did it in their time. By the time that Ozai went into power, the dragons had been long gone due to the dragon hunts, which were a large-scale hunt of them under Sozin when he was Firelord. The lore of this event states that the dragons were hunted so much to the point where they were almost near extinction, and they were ended to believe that that was the case. Only 2 dragons would be shown in the original when Aang and Zuko went to visit them, and then a third would appear in Legend of Korra under Zuko's control. So the details behind this what-if scenario make sense to theorize on for the sake of what it could have meant for Ozai, whose reign came after those hunts had ended. The Fire Nation was very ignorant to the idea that maybe they could have still existed and never once bothered to go and visit the Sun Warriors like Zuko and Aang did to learn from them, but also gain their firebending abilities. That only goes to show that Zuko was way ahead of his father with his ability to actually learn from what it meant to own the power of firebending. A power that Ozai utilized for the worst purposes versus Zuko, who saw it as something more than just violence and destruction, at least with the way he learned about it more as his redemption arc went on in the original cartoon. There were some interesting comments within this Reddit thread that leave for some fun speculation. You had a bunch of people suggesting that because of Ozai's aggression and rage, that would lead to him not actually listening to the dragons and be so far against his views of what firebending actually is and how you learn from it. I think the important thing that these comments in the thread bring up is that it is very apparent that Ozai was never a spiritual person. Far from it, probably the last person on the planet who you think would be converting to that kind of stuff. It's a very interesting dichotomy if you compare it to somebody like Commander Zhao within his own ranks, a man who thought of the strategy of beating the Northern Water Tribe by taking away their bending through the moon spirits. He learned and studied from them in order to create that strategy. If it had been Ozai there making the strategies for the invasion of the Northern Water Tribe, he would never have considered that. It's probably one of the reasons why the Northern Water Tribe was so difficult for the Fire Nation to take over. Ozai is not someone who is of the learning and studying type, and so as this relates to Back to the Dragons, you see why lots of people in the comment thread on this post say the things that they do. That also ties in with the actual Last Airbender finale with Sozin's Comet, of which is maybe the biggest reason why I wanted to make this what-if video in the first place. Now, there's an even bigger conversation that we can have about this as its own smaller what-if scenario, because according to the lore, nothing confirms the idea that the dragons would be affected by Sozin's Comet in the sense that they would also gain its power like all other firebenders. I was able to find another Reddit thread on the main The Last Airbender Reddit page from 5 months ago titled, "Imagine These Motherfuckers During Sozin's Comet," and a lot of people chimed in with some really fun and cool stuff. Basically, a lot of the comments on this thread were insinuating and kind of joking that even if the dragons sneezed, the entire atmosphere across the planet would be ablaze. If Ozai had that kind of power with him along from just his actual bending that we saw in the cartoon, I think there is absolutely no chance Aang survives that kind of thing. That is, of course, if we stipulate the fact that Aang would have to be in the Avatar state. Once he's in the Avatar state, it's game over basically. The dragon and Ozai combined would have no chance to stop him. If you take aside what Ozai's plan was with the Comet, if he even had the dragon at any other point during the war, it would have been long over for the Fire Nation's campaign to take over the Earth Kingdom and Water Tribes. He wouldn't even have needed Sozin's Comet to act in his plans of burning the whole world to a crisp. This could also now stem from one of Sozin's other failures, which, as I mentioned earlier, is because of the fact that he committed to the dragon hunts. He put aside the idea that they were of any importance to anyone, including his own family, with Azulon, and then Azulon to Ozai. On top of that, the guy did have his own dragon. If his dragon really meant something to him, he wouldn't have committed to those hunts to track down the rest. As it is, even though there is nothing really within the lore to establish how long a dragon can live, I think it's safe to say for the time being that we could assume they could live for a very long time. After all, Aang and Zuko came across two, who definitely had been living for a long time, as I'll point out here in a second with an interesting detail. Under those original dragon hunts, Firelord Sozin orchestrated that they were mainly looking for the prestige of honorary titles and legendary firebending abilities, but seemingly that never came. Sozin, weirdly enough, in difference to his grandson Ozai, looked to the spirits as a way to learn from the dragons. According to the lore, he learned from Wan Chi Tong's library that killing a dragon only caused spiritual as well as environmental harm and did not enhance firebending. Instead, he ignored it and decided to go on with the hunts anyway, believing that this knowledge was just of faulty legends and myths. Those hunts went on into the time of his son Azulon, and then even at the time of Prince Iroh. It's well known that Iroh at one point would have been the next Fire Lord afterwards, but that never happened. He was believed to have been the one who slayed the last dragon, thus rendering them extinct for good. But he actually had found the last of them, and he found them living amongst the Sun Warriors, who he would let protect them and isolate them. This connects with the point I just mentioned about the interesting detail of just how long these dragons could be living for. This also goes to show how well-intentioned Iroh was to not give that up to someone like Ozai, because he knew that nothing good would have come up that if he had given it up. It's funny because when you think about it harder, Ozai and the Fire Nation are really dumb for not even considering this during the war. Like, you mean to tell me for almost 100 years that no one bothered to go to the place of the Sun Warriors to check and see if that was still a thing? But to that point, that's the fun of doing a what-if style video like this, where we can have those fun little things to point out. So in conclusion, what would have happened if Ozai had gotten his hands on a dragon? Well, I think the answer to that question varies depending on the kind of person that you are and how you view the character of Ozai. I feel like there will be two sides, with favoring him, thinking that he would have taken on a dragon and used it for his destructive goals, and then the other side will have said that he would have opposed it, because he just is that ignorant to how powerful he is on his own. He probably would have wanted himself to be the one to be burning down the whole world during Sozin's Comet, and not have that dragon involved with it at all. For all we know, him trying to discipline a dragon under his watch probably could have gone wrong. It's like how you compare that to how he treated his own son and daughter. His expectations of them are rooted within his own views, so much so that he probably would have failed even there. There's enough evidence through the background of his character, through the show and the books, to see that that's how he would have been. The funnest part of making this video was, of course, theorizing how it could have affected the finale with Sozin's Comet, where we played on that smaller what-if of if the dragon had the capabilities to breathe fire like firebenders could with the comet. I think it's a really cool and interesting thing to look upon when discussing this world and its characters. So there you have it, my first what-if style Avatar video. I wanted to bring this series back because I know that other Avatar YouTubers have done it before. It's just a way to add to it, but also get people back into the fun of discussing this franchise as we look forward to the years to come with all the Avatar media that we are getting. What do you all think about this? Let me know down below in the comments. If you did enjoy this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to drop it a like, and if you are new to this channel, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Thank you all for stopping by Uncle Iroh's Tea Shop. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for more Avatar.